So this is our 7th interview with an artist on the 2024 studio tour, Glenn Hendrick.
Perfect.
Is that right? It's not too hard to pronounce. Glenn, thanks for joining us.
Wow, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is really exciting. And the studio tour is June 1 and 2 of this year, and there's already a buzz. There's already a lot of energy.
That's great. Yeah.
How many of these have you done?
I have been in, let's see, this will be my 4th one. I have only shown as a guest artist prior to this year. So this year I'll be hosting at my house, and that will be exciting.
You're one of the 23 stops.
Yeah, I must stop on the tour, so.
Do you, do people offer like little snacks or drinks
They
and
do,
things like
and
that?
we will definitely have some snacks. I don't know what's on the menu yet, but we have a really big barn at our place. And I think it's sometimes rainy on that weekend, so it's nice to know that we'll all be inside and there's a wood stove, so if need be, we can have tea in a wood stove.
Are you going to have any guest artists?
I do. I have, let's see, I have Living Large Small, which is Britt Whitaker and Craig Britton, and I have Elena Sheffer and Chris Umiarski.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's exciting. So you are a San Juan Island-based artist, obviously working primarily in printmaking. This is quite a range: printmaking, painting, drawing, ceramics, and textiles. You cover a lot of ground there.
It's fun. I really like to work around. I like to work between media I like to change media pretty frequently and work between media. So I went to school for printmaking and painting and drawing, but mostly ended up focusing on printmaking, and then got into ceramics after college, and that's been a big focus these last 10 years. But with Alchemy and having a print studio, it's been nice to get back into printmaking too.
So tell us about your history with the Alchemy Art Center.
So I met Maria Michelson in 2013 when I moved here and started working in her ceramic studio up on Katy Mountain when she had that spot. And she really had a vision. She wanted to start an art center because she missed the community of making art around other people. And then in 2016, she and her husband bought the property on Wold, and I got involved in 2018 as the co-director of the nonprofit. So we've been running that organization together since 2018.
Co-director, co-founder of the nonprofit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
She has amazing energy.
She really does, yeah.
How do you keep up?
It is hard to keep up. She has a lot more energy than I do, but I think we actually counterbalance each other quite a bit. I'm like the quiet, slow one, and she's the quick one, and I think in the middle we meet. That's a good team. Yeah.
So not everybody understands printmaking. Describe printmaking to someone who doesn't know exactly what that is.
Yeah, printmaking is really interesting and weird, and the original role of printmaking was to be able to make 1 million copies of something and be able to distribute information, visual information, text information. Communications. Yeah. And since we don't really need it to do that as much anymore, it's a fine arts tool that just has like a different feeling than painting and drawing, and it can be a lot more graphic. It can have a different feel, and there are so many different kinds of printmaking. So in college, I studied lithography, like stone lithography, and aluminum plate lithography, and etching, and woodcut, and all the really old style printmaking. And there's just so many different kinds. I guess the most typical kind that you would think of is maybe woodblock printing, which is where you carve a block of wood and it acts like a big stamp, essentially.
Right.
So, but there are so many other kinds of printmaking.
You know what I loved in high school was lino cuts.
Lino cuts, amazing. Yeah, that's like woodblock, but it's an easier to carve surface, and you can go all which way. You don't have to follow the grain of the wood.
Exactly. Yeah, that was fun. So, I mean, that kind of printing involves rollers and
ink,
very carefully positioning. And can that be a process of addition or reduction where you have a second color and a third color?
Yeah, definitely. You can do
A little bit like silk screening, or we were talking about
Yeah.
batik the other day.
Oh, cool.
Those processes.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, so let's just talk about block printing because we won't wrap other ones into it just yet. But with block printing, yeah, you can get a lot of different color variations. You can print on top of, you can print multiple prints on top of each other. That's called multicolor printmaking, multi-block. You can do reduction prints, which is where you start with a design and you gradually carve away more and more layers, and you print each carved away part with a different color ink. And yeah, there are lots of different ways to get different layers and colors. I use a lot of, in the series that we're gonna look at today, I used a lot of like masking out of areas like with cut pieces of paper, and I used collage, and I used a lot of like overlayering and ghost printing.
Do you know, are there many printmakers here on the island?
There are printmakers. Actually, since Alchemy has gotten started, there have been a lot more people able to make prints because printmaking is one of those techniques that can involve some pretty heavy equipment. So if you are wanting to make larger, like woodblock prints, for instance, it's a lot easier to have a press that you can roll your print through than to print by hand. We have a screen printing setup at Alchemy as well. But yeah, you know, I think there are maybe a couple of people who have private presses on San Juan.
I know one, but I'm not going to say her name because she may not want me to say her name. But
Reveal. Reveal the
when we're off air, I'll tell you.
Okay, cool.
So, are you going to be demonstrating this or doing this during the studio tour, or at least the equipment going to be
No,
visible?
I'm actually not going to have the equipment at my spot because I mostly print at Alchemy.
Oh, okay.
That's where the press lives that I use.
Okay.
And then in my barn, what I'm mostly working on in my space is paintings and pottery. So I have a pottery wheel and I have a kiln in my barn, and I have a painting set up, and I've been making a lot of paintings recently, so I might have a lot of paintings to show. We'll see how they turn out. You never know.
Do we have any paintings in the photos that you brought?
No, they're too new. They're
Okay.
too new to even take pictures of.
So describe the painting. Oil, acrylic,
Oil
watercolor?
painting on different kinds of surfaces, canvas and panel, and yeah, it's been really fun. I don't know if you know Marcia McAllister. She's a really great local artist, and she teaches a 100 drawings class and a 30 paintings class every spring. And you do 100 drawings in 3 weeks, and then you do 30 paintings in 3 weeks, and I'm in the 30 paintings class. And it's really fun.
That's fast.
And it makes you paint really fast.
30, wow.
Yeah.
In what, 3 weeks?
Yeah. So it's fun because it's always a
You
good
got
way
to commit.
yeah, and you have to just deal with whatever blocks are coming up, and you just have to keep going. So it's kind of good motivation. You can't get sad that you don't like your paintings or.
Do you paint like a still life or
I've been painting a lot of like weird people, maybe some landscapes.
I mean, do you just paint what comes into your mind, or do you bring reference
I
photos,
understand.
or do they?
I sometimes use reference photos. For this series, I'm just kind of going off of my own imagination, and I am just kind of seeing what comes out.
So pretty abstract, obviously, in those time frames.
Kind of, yeah. It's actually like it's pretty figurative, but the colors are really weird because a lot of what I'm using are these like concentrated paint sticks, which are like these, it's basically oil paint in like a stick form, and it's not pastel. It's like oil paint in a solid stick form, and you can just like go really fast.
I've never used that.
It's really fun because you have to paint, you have to use pretty bold colors. So it's a different kind of feeling.
I would just impulsively just do all abstract in those time frames. Like how much time do you have to do a
Well,
painting?
it just depends on your schedule, I guess. I only have a couple weeks or a couple days where I can work on painting, usually per week. But I can sometimes do like 3 or 4 in one session if I'm flowing enough.
Now, are you at a central studio, or is everybody doing this from home, or are there studios?
So our class is in person, so a lot of people are working at home and then bringing their work. It's like there's a once a week critique or show and tell, and then the final show of everybody's stuff, and we all like walk around and talk about it. Some people are working in the classroom, but I'm mostly working at home because it's pretty messy.
How has this speed painting changed the way you paint?
It's really, really fun. It makes me feel a lot more, I guess, loose with my painting and a lot more like urgent to just do something and a lot less in my mind, in my head, and a lot less like the point of the class is to kind of get out of your critical mind and into just like I'm just doing it.
Intuitive.
And through that, it's like you can kind of get out of, intuitive and just getting out of like the block zone where you may feel.
I would also guess that it creates a lot of surprises.
It does, which is fun because I really do like to work quickly and in series. And last winter I was making these kind of like really dark, like sort of black and white monotypes, which that's another kind of printmaking where you make a painting on a piece of plexiglass and then run it through the press onto paper. And it's fun because the plexiglass is smooth, so you can kind of endlessly add ink to it and like wipe it away and create like these like values in a different kind of way.
Wow.
Which is cool, and I really like working like that. It has like a little bit dreamier of a effect, I think.
Now, are you new to painting?
No, I've painted for a long time, but I'm kind of an intermittent painter who like always wants to be doing more. So it's fun to be back in it.
And textiles.
Textiles, so sometimes I go through these silk painting phases where I'll like get out my silk paints and just kind of like do some like really intensive silk painting, which is like a whole thing as well. And sometimes I get into t-shirt painting, so I'll like make some original t-shirts and just like do designs on t-shirts, and that's kind of a fun way to get stuff out in the world in terms of wearable objects.
Well, let's look at some of your work. I think we have 9 items to look at, Jeremy. So just tell us what we're seeing.
So this is a print that I made actually a few years ago, maybe like 2018 actually. And this is a wood block, and it's a different way of working with a wood block. It's not carved. So most of the time when you think about a wood block print, you think of carving, carve marks.
Right.
And this is actually just using stencils and different layers of ink and printing the block several times to kind of get this sort of like ghostly mountain range. But you can still see the wood grain, which I think adds a lot.
Yeah, that's really neat. Okay.
This is a block also from 2018. This one does have some carve marks, but it does also have a lot of like overprinting. It looks like, it's kind of hard to describe. This is from a mountain and river series. And the lighter area that's kind of like near the top is a layer of lighter ink that's over some of that gray ink, and then the rest of the white is the paper color.
It reminds me of a very, very old photograph.
Yeah.
Some of the darker areas
Oh, that's
have
great.
that, that very, very worn, even, I forget what it was called when they actually photographed onto glass.
Yeah.
That looks like mid-1800s.
That's great.
Isn't it neat?
That's really cool. This is from a series that I did in 2013 in the spring, kind of winter spring, and this is kind of like bouncing off of that earlier series, and this was actually for a show that I got to be in Canada on Salt Spring. That was a group of San Juan Island artists who got to go over there and show, which was really cool. And this one is kind of a lot of paper cut stenciling and multicolor printing. So I'm printing the same block maybe like 3 or 4 times using different colors of ink, but
Yeah.
instead of carving the block, I'm using like different cut paper stencils to get those designs.
Feels like winter.
Yeah, it was a winter situation.
Beautiful.
Thanks. And this is from that same series, and this one actually has a little collage element, so I deconstructed some other prints and just kind of collaged in some elements.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Mm.
This one too has some collage and a lot of layering and overprinting.
Great lines.
Thanks. And this one actually is one of the more straightforward ones. This does have carved, the water is all carved. And the mountains are not carved, the mountains are stenciled areas that are blocked out.
Nice.
Thanks.
Ooh, I like that.
This one is kind of a view from Mount Young area, looking out into Mitchell Bay. Is that it? Garrison Bay? And this one is, yeah, several layers of ink. It's this one, so I usually work on 2 prints at a time when I'm working this way, and one will have more dense ink application, and then I'll usually print it again on a separate piece of paper, which is called ghost printing, and that's why you kind of see this one as like a little bit more wash looking.
I like the muted colors.
I like it too. I think
Yeah.
this one has a lot of atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then this one, yeah, this one's from that same series. This one is, there's no collage, but there's no carving either. It's all just blocked out areas and overprinting.
You're heavily influenced by the water.
Yeah.
Makes it
I'm
into
from
about
the
half
Midwest, so.
half of your artwork has
Yeah.
got water in
And
it.
this is one series, so this one I think has like a similar line all the way through, which is like these kind of like crossing mountains and water and islands.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Ooh.
And this one is, yeah, kind of like a stormier one with water involved, and some collage. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Gloomy.
Very nice.
Thanks.
So, album covers, event posters.
So-
You have a very wide range.
Yeah, well, I really
Or
like
do you have
making
just
art.
a short attention span?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe both. I play in a band too, so I end up making a lot of like flyers and album art through that. My partner John has a project called John Bellows, and I play backup flute and bass and sing. And I've designed like several of his album covers, and I made the art for one of Sway. Well, okay, it wasn't Sway Wild back then, but if you know the band Sway Wild with Mandy Fair and Dave McGraw, they used to be called Dave McGraw and Mandy Fair, and they had an album in 2014, I think, called Maritime, and I did the paintings for that too.
Where does your partner record? Where do they?
He's a home recorder.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have a recording studio in the house, and yeah.
We would love to have you play here. We really
I would love to play.
We got room. We got
yeah,
microphones.
we would love to play.
Yeah.
We love playing a sound studio. It's like one of the funnest places to play.
Yeah, this is almost a sound stage.
Yeah,
It
it's
actually does
nice.
pretty well with
Yeah.
the ceiling tiles.
Yeah, we could do all kinds of fun stuff on the green screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do
It's
it.
going to be a plan.
Okay, cool. I'm excited.
I get the idea, Glenn, that you really like new things.
I do. Yeah, I really like to experiment. I feel like somebody was like, "What are you up to?" Like in the print studio, and I was like, "I don't know, I'm just experimenting." And they were like, "Sounds like Glenn." And I think I really like that. I was remembering recently that as a kid, I used to really like to get like a new pack of some kind of art supplies and just like try all of the colors and just, just see what they looked like and see what they did. And I just feel like that's always what I'm doing still.
Beautiful. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you on the studio tour.
I hope you'll come by to 810 Boyce Road.
Absolutely. Actually, we're nearly neighbors.
Oh,
so
great.
you'll probably be our first or second stop.
Heck yeah.
But And you have a website?
I do. It's glennhendrickart.com.
You really went out there, really
Yeah.
pulled out all the creative stuff.
I also have glennhendrick.com.
Okay.
If you want to get them all.
Well, it's really nice to meet you, and I love your work.
Thanks.
And we will see you out on the studio, and hopefully see you in this studio.
Yeah,
making
let's
some
do
noise.
It. That would be so
Please.
fun. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Well, you've got our email address.
I
so.
will do. Yeah, I will email you.
And anybody else too. We really want to have musicians in here. Did you notice the 2 Hammond organs?
I didn't. I will notice them on the way out.
Hammond organs, xylophone, drum kit,
Fun.
and other stuff too. So
Cool.
it's kind of on loan here, but it's all Hammond organ. I mean, we might have to supply the operator, but it's a great sound.
That's so fun.
It could be really eclectic with the flute, and you
I
never know.
wonder.
It's great sound, but it's got the vibrato and that great Hammond
Ooh.
B3 sound.
That's
so,
exciting.
yeah, we might need to talk about
We
that.
might need to get that out.
All right. So musicians are welcome here, artists are welcome here, but you're the 7th guest now talking about the studio tour. We're all about the studio tour coming up June 1 and 2. Keep an eye on their website, and I hope you make plans to stay in town that weekend. It's a weekend, right?
It's a weekend, yeah. It's always a Friday or Saturday, Sunday.
And
yeah.
be sure to plan for the studio tour. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.